Hey yo, what's good y'all? I'm back with another banger. Today we're going to be talking about the NBA draft lottery. If you're new to the channel and you're a huge NBA fan, subscribe and leave a like for more. Alright, let's get into it. Alright, so as we all know, the draft's coming up in a few days, or maybe a day, on August 20th, depending on when this video comes out. But anyways, the lottery has always been a time for fans of bad teams like me with the Cavs to be excited and get a glimpse of who they could get in the draft. This year we have tons of amazing prospects entering the league like LaMelo Ball, Anthony Edwards, James Wiseman, Obi Toppin, and many more. But today we're going to be talking about potentially rigged draft lotteries of the past and try to figure out if this year's lottery could be rigged on the 20th. But before we talk about this year's lottery, I want to run through some conspiracies from the past. So the first one's in 1985, and the Knicks were sitting with the third worst odds behind the Warriors and Pacers in the draft. The Knicks clearly had the biggest market out of the three teams, and Patrick Ewing could potentially carry them in their market for the next decade. They weren't using the lottery ball system, but they were using a system where they would pull cards out within envelopes with each team's name on it. Many people thought that the Knicks envelope could have technically been refrigerated, so David Stern could tell which one's the Knicks and not pull it out first, but there's no proof of this theory. However, there is evidence of an envelope being knocked against the case before going in, leaving a dent, shown here. We can also see David Stern pick up two envelopes in this clip and drop one instead of just picking up the first one. This is probably the biggest lottery scandal of all time, and there just is so much evidence, it seems like something has to be fixed. More suspicion came a couple years later, all the way up in 2011, when the Cavs got the first pick, despite only having a 2.8% chance. And then in 2013, getting it again with a 15% chance, and then getting it again in 2014 with a 1.7% chance. This seems like it would be incredibly rare to happen all three times, and it is, considering it's only a 0.067% chance of happening. But this just doesn't make much sense, and the odds of it actually happening are near impossible. Our third major conspiracy happens in 2016, when the 76ers have a 25% chance at getting the first pick and had the worst record in the league. It seems like they had a pretty good chance of getting at the first pick, but no one knew until the lottery. Except that's what we thought. Dikembe Mutombo tweeted out, "Congrats to the Sixers on grabbing the number one spot in the NBA draft," hours before the lottery aired. He quickly deleted the tweet, but it had already been seen and captured by the internet. And later that night, what do you know? The lottery aired, and the Sixers ended up with the number one pick. Makes no sense, right? The most recent suspicious lottery moment was during last year's lottery. As we all know, the New Orleans Pelicans and Memphis Grizzlies both got a top two pick, securing themselves Zion Williamson and Ja Morant. The weird thing is the Pelicans only had a 6% chance at this number one pick, and the Grizzlies only had a 6.2% chance at the number two pick, which both are not good odds, but it could make sense how they get them, right? But if you look into it and look at this chart, these two teams, the Memphis Grizzlies and the New Orleans Pelicans, were tied dead last in revenue gained by their team in 2018 to 2019. Some could say it's a coincidence, but I think not, and Adam Silver was trying to balance the money each team was earning by rigging the lottery. These conspiracies seem minor, but in the grand scheme of things, they're huge. It'll push one team that's supposed to be getting a top player and giving it to some other team. It's ruining and jeopardizing the future of teams. I'm looking at last year's draft's odds right now, and the Knicks, Cavs, Suns, Bulls, Hawks, and Wizards all had a higher chance of getting a top two pick than the Pelicans and the Grizzlies. But who got it? Not them. These teams could potentially have a top player, but they were finessed by Adam Silver. As a Cavs fan, it's weird because we ended up getting the 6th pick last year, I think, drafting Darius Garland. But who knows, we could have legitimately got the number one pick or number two and ended up with a Zion or a Ja Morant, setting us up for a good season this year and a great season next year. I think if the NBA is rigging the lottery, it could be a big deal and cost people millions of dollars if found out true. Last year, the NBA generated $8 million through revenue, and imagine how much revenue they'd lose if people found out that their lotteries are fake and they're rooting for teams and putting money towards teams that are getting not legitimate chances at the pick that they deserve. We've seen it from the Philadelphia 76ers. Teams tank for years on years to build up a team through the draft. And imagine your team is purposely trying to lose games so they can get a good pick, but it turns out that they never had a shot at that pick anyways, and they're just throwing games away. Alright, so back to this year's draft. I think it's actually a pretty strong draft, even though most experts say otherwise. But who could potentially the lottery get rigged for? So we don't know like what the NBA bases off their information of to rig people. But if you look back at the scandals we've been talking about, the teams that have been blessed by the odds are the teams that aren't making much revenue and teams losing relevance and popularity. So right now, there isn't a current revenue chart for this year, but if we look back at the 2018 to 2019 one I showed you guys earlier, some other teams at the bottom are the Minnesota Timberwolves, Charlotte Hornets, and if you look a little higher up, the Detroit Pistons. Another potential team that the lottery could be rigged towards is the San Antonio Spurs. Although they are completely fine in the revenue department, they're going downwards as a team and losing relevance. Some things that could potentially happen due to rigging, if you look at these odds, would be the T-Wolves going up to like a 1 or 2 pick, and same with the Pistons potentially. Both of them could potentially get a top 3 pick. And I could also see something like the Hornets getting a pick higher than their projected 8th pick. And I could see the Spurs, they're only projected the 11th pick, but they'll probably easily get a top 10. But we won't know until the 20th, which is in a couple days. It'll be interesting if one of these things happen. So yeah, this has been my second video. If you guys enjoyed, I would appreciate it if you could subscribe and like and comment on the video. It helps the channel out a ton, and I'm just getting started, so every like means more than it really should. Videos will keep coming, but yeah, I'll see you guys next time. Peace.